Welcome to Across the Aisle. I'm Gail Garbrandt, and thank you for joining us. We are on Channel 2 on Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. and on Fridays at 4:30 p.m. If those are not convenient times for you to catch the show, don't worry, because you can go to WJERTV2.com, look for Across the Aisle under Community Programming, and you can click on that and watch all of the shows. You can also find us on YouTube. Just search under Across the Aisle TV2 New Philadelphia, Ohio. And again, you'll not only find the shows for this year, but you'll also find the shows that we did in 2015. Well, I'm so happy that all of you are here today. As you know, this is a very important year. It is a presidential election year, so some people think that's the only election that you vote in, but those of us who are involved in politics, like my guest here, know that there's no such thing as an off year in politics. Right. We are, however, in a compressed primary season. We have a primary election in March 15th of 2016, as compared to non-presidential years when that election is in May. So that means that everything gets kind of compressed and pushed together. So we wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to meet some of our candidates and to keep some important dates in mind. The last day for you to register to vote is February 16th. The first day for early voting is February 17th, where you can actually walk into the Board of Elections and cast your ballot. If you want an absentee ballot, you can request it now. You do have to have an application, which you can pick up at the Secretary of State's website or physically at the Tuscarawas County Board of Elections. So without further ado, let me introduce our special guest today, Tuscarawas County Commissioner Chris Abbuhl. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hi, Gail. I'm doing well. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Chris has been a commissioner for 12 years, and he is up for re-election in March of 2016, March 15th. That would be the primary, and then again he will run in the general election in November. So stay tuned with us, and we're going to be back and have a very nice chat with our incumbent commissioner, Chris Abbuhl. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
WJER and TV2 would like to introduce you to a new website, WJERTV2.com, where you can watch exciting high school football, soccer, and volleyball replays from TV2 Sports on your home computer, smartphone, or tablet. Also watch the latest episodes of TV2's original programming, Sports Talk, The Garden Girl, The Not So Shy Chef, Off the Record, and Medical Minutes, as well as catch up on local community news and search for local businesses. So make sure to check out the new WJERTV2.com community website where everything's local.
Omni Orthopedics comprehensive programs provide early diagnosis and successful treatment for every musculoskeletal problem. With more than 30 years of orthopedic experience, their physicians offer patient-centered treatment for all ages. From evaluation to rehabilitation, your treatment plan is designed around your needs. Omni Orthopedics specializes in sports medicine, the spine, physical medicine and rehabilitation, foot and ankle, and hand surgery. If pain makes activities like climbing stairs, standing or walking a challenge, turn to the home team at Omni Orthopedics. Their mission is to provide you with the highest quality and most advanced orthopedic services so you can get back in the game. Located in the Oxford Medical Arts Building, Omni offers a full-service facility including digital x-ray and physical therapy. So there's no need to travel when quality care is so close to home. Omni Orthopedics, setting the standard in orthopedic care.
Brilliantly practical scientist Harriet Tuttle's search for a more efficient life concluded with an unorthodox solution. Harriet created 4 more Harriets. Together they were a model of efficiency. However, while identical, they had their own interests and their own retirement plans, each customized with a Raymond James financial advisor, allowing them to enjoy life separately and together. Life well planned. See what a Raymond James advisor can do for you.
Welcome back to Across the Aisle. I'm Gail Garbrandt, and with me today is my special guest, Tuscarawas County Commissioner Chris Abbuhl. Chris is the incumbent county commissioner who is up for re-election March 15th of 2016, and I'm so delighted to have Chris here to talk to the voters. Chris, tell us a little bit how you got started in politics, what your background is, what brought you into this arena, and then we're going to talk about your job as county commissioner, which you've held for 12 years.
Okay, well, I'll talk a little bit about my family first. I'm married. This will be we'll be celebrating 32 years this year.
Wow.
In March. And I have 2 adult children, Rachel and Tyler, and I have 1 little granddaughter, Elena. So that's my family, and I got started because I always had a passion to serve. I always wanted to do something on a full-time basis in the community that I could support myself as far as doing public service. So I started out while I was still working a full-time job and as a precinct committeeman. So that's almost been, we'll need to check that, so it's probably been about 30 years.
Oh my goodness.
So I've been a precinct committeeman for a long time, so that's kind of where I started. And then I went to become I ran for a township trustee, and I served as a Mill Township trustee for 9 years.
Okay. Well, a lot of people think that that job as township trustee is a great training ground to run for higher office, because you do get to establish networks that you build upon once you run for something else, and in your case ran for county commissioner. So did that help you in particular being a trustee before you ran for commissioner?
Yeah, I think so, because it was a part-time position, and technically even the commissioner is considered part-time. But when I ran to be a commissioner, when the opportunity came about, I told the voters that I would be running and I would be a full-time commissioner if elected. And so far, everything has worked out very well for me, and I'm very much appreciative to be able to serve the people of Tuscarawas County. But at the time, I was working at American Electric Power. So it was an excellent job, still would be an excellent job if I was still there, but I told them if I won the election that I would be a full-time commissioner, and that's what I did, and I left my job at AEP and became a full-time commissioner. So I haven't looked back and regretted 1 minute of it. Every day that I go into the office is a challenge. I enjoy my job. There's always something new, and I have never been bored. I put a lot of hours in, but I mean, that's my choice. You know, I expect to be, and as I told the residents, that I would be a full-time commissioner, and above and beyond that, because there's a lot of things in the evening sometimes, and in early meetings in the morning also. But you know, you've always heard it said before, if you love your job, it's not really a job. It's a passion. And I do have a passion for this position that I have, and that I'm very fortunate to be able to do for a living.
Great. So what are some of the responsibilities in being a commissioner in Tuscarawas County?
Well, I wrote there are so many different responsibilities, because our position is so different and unique from other elected officials, because we handle so many different things. One of our main focuses is our budget, the budget process. And we typically start the budget in October of the previous year. So for the budget for this year in 2016, we started in October of 2015.
Okay.
So what we do is we contact all our departments, and we ask them to submit a budget to us on what they would, their needs and their wants. And then after that, then we meet with all those department heads and elected officials on an individual basis, or whoever else they want to bring with their staff. Sometimes they have financial folks that come in with them to help them with their budget process also. So then we go through that process, and they explain to us why they need what they need, or why they want this additional funding for whatever particular project it may be. And then after that process, we wait until after the first year when we have solid numbers, when we know what numbers we're going to be really working with, because the auditor will notify us when all the final numbers are in, and we can work from that. And then what we do is go through the whole budget process, and we figure out how much money we've got coming in and how many expenditures have been requested. And most often, the expenditures exceed the receipts. So then we have to really sharpen our pencil and go back, and we have to look at things that are actually needs and what are wants. And we have to shave that back a little bit, because you have to work within your budget. So we've been very frugal with county dollars, and I think that my record will stand that I have a solid record on financial responsibility as far as the county dollars.
Okay, so no deficit spending in Tuscarawas County.
You know, this year was very, very interesting. It was very unique. what we did was, and the general rule of thumb is that you keep 16% over from the previous year. So what we did was took 2015 expenditures, we times that times 18% rather than 16. So we kept a little 2% cushion.
Okay, so you're being very conservative. Good.
Right, yeah, so we have that money set aside as a carryover. And those are, certainly those are for any type of emergency that would come up, because you don't know what's going to happen down the road. Maybe your money's not going to come in as projected, so you may have to cut into that carryover balance a little bit to be able to make ends meet. So like I said, the general rule of thumb is to keep 16%, and we kept 18%. So when initially we started, there was $1 million over expenditures, and we had to cut back on that. But then once we got to a balanced budget and we had so much money as a carryover, and we did that 18% that I had told you about, then we had about, I think, $390,000 additional funds available. So what we did, because we have a capital project with the dome that needs to be replaced. And that,
the dome on the courthouse?
The dome on the courthouse needs
Okay.
to be replaced, and it's a historical building. So that 390-some thousand, I don't have the exact figure, but it's around that amount. We put that into a special fund to go for the capital project of replacing the dome. So at some point, you know, if we can do that in the future, it's going to lessen if we have to borrow any money, certainly. But hopefully it would be enough that once we start putting another additional money in there down the road to cover the cost. But the projected cost right now is anywhere between $600,000 to $1 million to replace the dome. So
Wow.
the commissioners are responsible for the county buildings too. So our capital projects have been identified. Right now we have about $3 million of identified future projects that we're not funding right now, but we're funding about $1 million of projects this year. But we still have about $3 million identified for future projects.
Okay.
And each year you have new ones come up.
Well, I wasn't aware that the commissioners were responsible for all the county buildings, but that's certainly something that the voters would be interested in knowing. And congratulate you on kind of putting that cushion in there. And you, the commissioners actually kind of hold the purse strings then for the county, is that correct?
Well, yeah, we're the budgeting authority, and again, we have to be very frugal with the dollars because we don't know what may happen down the road. You know, if something happens to one of our buildings, if, say for an example, like our sheriff's department, when we replaced the roof down there, that was $1 million, I think $1.3 million, $1.5 million to replace the roof. So, and if something like that would come up with another building, or say the boiler would go out or something like that, these are high dollar costs because they're like a boiler is certainly it's heating a large facility.
Sure.
So we got to be prepared for things like that may come up. One of the things that we're doing right now that came up, and it was gradually coming up, but we tried to fix it over time, was our elevator in the courthouse. Courthouse elevator.
I've been in that elevator.
Yeah, so it's
kind of a scary experience.
It is. It's one of the older ones, and it had kind of the finger connections, and they were sticking. And so we are retrofitting a new elevator into there. Again, you got to keep the integrity of the building because it's a historical building.
Right, sure.
So, and it costs a little bit more to do that, but it'll have the inner workings will be all of a modern elevator.
Awesome.
So that's one of the things that came up that, you know, we wasn't really expecting right now, but you know, you're looking at $100,000 or so.
Wow, okay. Well, we've been talking about responsibilities of a county commissioner, and Commissioner Abbuhl has told us about some of the fiscal responsibilities the commissioners have to be responsible for. So we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with more Across the Aisle.
Myers & Miller Podiatry provides complete foot and ankle care to patients of all ages. The practice was established in 2000 by Dr. Adam Myers and has grown to include Dr. Andy Miller in 2007, Dr. Jason Bakich in 2010, and most recently Dr. Kristen Henry in 2015. Our core values of respect and honesty are the basis for how we manage our practice, and we continue to grow by building relationships with our patients in order to better serve their needs. Myers & Miller Podiatry serves Tuscarawas and Holmes counties with offices in Dover, Sugar Creek, Newcomerstown, Millersburg, and our newest location in Yorksville. Let's get started with building our relationship.
Hi, I'm Elaine Miller with Naturally Green Cleaning Service. My company serves both commercial and residential clients. We do general cleaning, spring and fall, empty homes to get them move-in ready, and final cleans for new construction. We use eco-friendly cleaning products that leave your home or office fresh, clean, and safe for you, your family, pets, or coworkers. Our focus at Naturally Green is to provide excellent customer service paired with outstanding work to build a relationship of trust with you, our clients. Having served the area 4+ years, we have had many referrals and testimonials that you can access on our website at www.naturallygreencs.com. Our work sells itself, therefore we have never had any contracts even with our largest commercial accounts. Call us today for your free quote and see what makes our company stand out.
Hi, I'm TV2 Sports Talk's Bill Morgan. Some people are outstanding at playing sports, and then there's me. While we at TV2 Sports Talk may have never been All-State on the field, we are Tuscarawas County's MVP when it comes to local television sports talk and play-by-play. Catch TV2 Sports Talk Wednesday nights at 7 and Friday afternoons at 5 on DMG Channel 2.
Welcome back to Across the Aisle. I'm Gail Garbrandt, and with me today is Tuscarawas County Commissioner Chris Abbuhl. Thanks again for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
We've been talking about some of the responsibilities of being a county commissioner, and Chris, I wanted you to talk to our audience about some of the things you've been able to accomplish as a commissioner, projects that you're most proud of,
Okay.
some of the bigger significant things that have really put a little check mark in your diary, so to speak.
Well, I'll say, again, there's so many things that we touch on, and it's hard to capture all that in a short period of time, but I'll touch on a couple of things that I'm very proud of. One of the things that I'm proud of is the support that we give our municipalities and our townships. A formula that's used for local government funding is 50-50. It comes into the county. We would normally would keep 50% of the money that comes in, and 50% would go to be split between the municipalities and the townships.
Now, this is money coming from the state government or federal?
The state
Government.
The state.
Okay.
And that had been cut in half because we're working on half of what we used to. But that comes in, and it's to be divided 50-50. But the commissioners, excuse me, have historically, and I have supported, and we just renewed this in 2011, we give an additional 15% to the townships municipalities because I believe that it's important that we're able to help them the best we can and giving them additional dollars because we know that they're tight on their budget when it comes to maintaining the facilities and the roads and the different things that they're required to do. So that extra 15% over the term that I have been in office is equated to $6.9 million.
Wow.
So that's an additional $6.9 million that we have given to the municipalities and the townships. And that's something that I'm very proud of and I'm glad that we're able to do.
Because I'm sure there's a lot of local projects that would not have been possible without that money from the commissioners because the state and local government fund had been cut.
Yeah, it's been cut by 50%. But sometimes people don't realize that because it's been in place for a while, and again, it was renewed in 2011. So that's something that we continued, and I'm very proud of that. One of the other things is that we're always, and I've always been an advocate of going after grant dollars because if we don't go after them in Tuscarawas County, another county is going to go after them. So there's a lot of state and federal dollars that we need to be aware of that's available to help our communities. And one of those was the Moving Ohio Forward grant, and it was about $387,000, and that came from the Attorney General's office. And again, we partnered with our communities, the municipalities and the townships, and they flowed, the dollars flowed through us, but we were able to eliminate 32 different blighted properties throughout our communities in Tuscarawas County because of that funding. So we're always advocating for Tuscarawas County, and anytime that we have those abilities to get those dollars. And I do want to touch on one thing that I'm very proud of. We partnered with the Port Authority at the time, and now they're called EDFA, which is Economic Development Finance Alliance. And I was very passionate about getting the old ODOT property cleaned up on West High. If you remember, a number of years ago, and this is where Buffalo Wild Wings sits now.
Sure.
A number of years ago, that was an empty Superfund site that had sat there vacant for 13 years with buildings on it that were falling in. And we got a group of us that went to Columbus and tried to get control of that property to be able to get it cleaned up. I went as an individual on a number of occasions too, and was able to meet with Director Molitoris at the time, which was under Governor Strickland. Long story short, they agreed that they didn't have a use for the property. It was a Superfund site that had oil spills and paint and that kind of thing. So the only way to really get it cleaned up was through Clean Ohio funds. So we were able to get control of that property through the Port Authority, EDFA now, to be able to get that property cleaned up. We got it from the state of Ohio for $1, but it took thousands and thousands of dollars to get it cleaned up.
Sure.
Then once it was cleaned up, it was sold to a developer who put Buffalo Wild Wings on there. And what's really unique about that was the Port Authority over time had borrowed money from the county, and they actually owed the county about $3 million at one time. And my goal when I came into the office was to be able to get that debt clear. From the sale of those properties, because we were the grantee on some of those some of the properties that the Port Authority owned, we made an agreement that whenever you sell these properties, we get the funding from those sales to pay back your debt. And as of 2015, they have paid back their total amount of $3 million.
Oh, that's great.
So, and part of that property from the West High property alleviated some of that debt. So I'm very proud of that also. It cleaned up a Superfund site. It was able to helped get the county debt paid back from the Port Authority, and also created jobs and put a nice economic development piece of property back into production.
Right, and that is a great looking facility that's there now. And I do remember, and as a lot of residents probably do as well, driving past that old site when it was in disrepair and just looking the other way because you just didn't, it was such an eyesore and such an environmental nightmare.
Right. And Mercy Medical, if you remember, there was a junkyard right across the street.
Right.
Mercy Medical had done the same thing. They cleaned up a Superfund site and put a nice medical facility there, and it was the main route coming into town, so now it looks really nice there, and that there's still room for economic development also. A couple other things, Gail, if I may touch on, is some of the leadership roles that I'm in.
Okay, sure.
I've been involved in the County Commissioners Association, and I'm the Ag Chair.
Okay.
So I've been able to take some of my Ag Committee to Gibraltar Island, which is Ohio State University's research island, is up by Put in Bay.
Okay.
And because there's some issues with the algal blooms, that green colored water that you get, it's actually, when it becomes the blue-green algae, it's toxic. And some of the relationship between the nutrient overloading in that Lake Erie that causes that is some of our agriculture, but it also comes from sewage plants and also comes from failing septic systems and things like that. So I wanted to take our ag people up there so that we understood that it's not just an ag problem, but it's a problem for multiple sources that this nutrient overloading is happening. So it was very important that we took the agricultural community up there to hear firsthand the scientific information that the research team was able to provide them, so that you're not hearing coffee house talk, because a lot of things they get lost in translation. So, so I'm very proud of that too. I like to be involved in the leadership aspect of it, because there's so many things that when you do that networking with people. I'm also an officer with Omega, which is the High Mid-Eastern Governments Association, and with EOTA, which is an Eastern Ohio Development Association. And EOTA is a 16-county region, and so it's a regional type of networking group that they support economic development within the region, so they really try to gear towards that type of thing, that approach. Omega is more of a funding source, and we've gotten millions of dollars in Tuscarawas County through Omega, which is funneled down from the state, which is funneled down from the federal government. So it comes from the ARC funding, Appalachian Regional Commission, down to the Governor's Office of Appalachia. And I've been involved in these two organizations and have been in the leadership of them. Just was elected to EOTA as the president this year.
Well,
But
congratulations.
Thank you. But Omega, I go to Columbus to advocate for dollars to come back here. I've testified a number of times on different issues in relation to severance tax and the local government funding. But I've gone to Washington also for support for Omega, which is one of our development districts in the state of Ohio. There's 4 of them, but Omega is the one that we're part of, and they are funded, as I said, through GOA and ARC. But so we go to Washington to advocate to continue that funding for these development districts because it has been millions of dollars that have been invested in Tuscarawas County because of the connection that we have with Omega. And it's a grant source that we go and present our projects, and then Omega recommends them to GOA, the governor's office, and then the governor's office recommends them to ARC, and then that's where they get the final approval, and those dollars come back to those projects. Over the course of the existence of Omega, there have been $62 million spent in Tuscarawas County.
Wow, that's a great record of accomplishment.
It's fantastic.
It's
so
wonderful.
we want to continue to advocate for that, and being part of leadership in those organizations and being engaged, I think makes a world of difference. People can put a face, when I call somebody at either GOA or ARC, they can put a face to the person that's on the call.
Because they know who you are,
Right.
and that's important.
Right.
I do know that.
So I think you need to be very engaged.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've been really, really busy as a county commissioner, that not only do you have your regular daily activities you're involved in, but you're involved in a lot of organizations and networking opportunities that take you not only around the region, but across the state and even into the federal level of government. So, thank you for all of your hard work.
Well, thank you.
And final word for our voters today on your reelection?
Well, I've been a commissioner for 12 years now, and I think that I've done some really good things. I mean, I've been involved in some good things, and I've always said my campaign has always been it's teamwork for a better tomorrow. And I believe that I don't do it alone. It takes a group of people to get projects completed. I may spearhead things, I may have a passion for things, but it's very important that we have, as I talked about, networking, that we can go to people that are the decision makers and that we can make a difference in that way. The challenges for the future is always funding. There's always a need for additional funding. We did lose some of our local government funds, which was cut in half, and we've advocated and tried to get that restored, and maybe that'll happen someday, but we'll keep up the good fight. We've lost about $2.7 million in 2008 is what we got for interest revenue. Because the interest rate is so low now, we're projected this year for about $200,000. So we have to be very frugal and crafty on how we get additional dollars to come in. So we've got a lot of capital projects. The sales tax is doing very well. I'm on the Retention and Expansion Committee for the Chamber of Commerce because I think it's important we protect those jobs too. But again, there's a couple of grants that are coming up for new projects. We got an ag, which is a new grant source, which is $50,000, and we match that $50,000. It's a $100,000 project that we can do for the fairgrounds. We got local government safety grant that we're applying for the Sheriff's Department to get new locks down there. So these are all brand new ones. Capital budget grant that we're putting in for a food incubator. You may not have heard about this, but I've been working on this for the last couple of years. I put together a committee. There was 3 incubators that we toured.
Okay.
And that's what we were looking at, something for Tuscarawas County. And these capital budget grant is a source that you can get funding for that. And what a food incubator does is just the same thing as what a business incubator does. It spurs economic development with people that are doing food industry type products. We tied this together into this grant as a farmer's market and as a cultural center. And it's made the first cut.
Great.
So now it goes to the legislature. It's at Omega now. Omega has approved it to go forward, so it goes to the legislators. Now they'll look at
In Ohio.
In Ohio.
Yeah.
And I've already talked with Representative Landis and Senator Hottinger, so they're very supportive of it. And so That's another one. And then there's critical infrastructure grant, which we've applied for a couple of times and haven't been able to get it, but we'll continue to
Yeah,
try.
got to try, right? Well, we
Right.
want to thank you for all of your hard work and especially for being on the show today. We invite you to, again, tune in to watch us on Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m., on Fridays at 4:30 p.m. If you can't make those times, you can go to WJERTV2.com and you can find us there under community programming. You can also find us on YouTube under Across the Aisle TV2, New Philadelphia, Ohio. So thanks for joining us on Across the Aisle from all of us here at Channel 2.